An endangered gorilla gave birth, but no one knew that this was not an ordinary birth. As the team watched with bated breath, something happened that they had never encountered before. At first, everything seemed normal, but just a few minutes later, everyone was left speechless. Gorillas are one of the most extraordinary creatures facing the threat of extinction. These powerful yet sensitive giants living in the deep forests of Africa are fighting a great battle due to the rapid loss of their habitats. Deforestation, human settlements, and illegal hunting are the greatest dangers threatening their existence. In addition, illegal trade continues to reduce their population day by day. However, there are many global initiatives to save these magnificent creatures. But are these efforts sufficient, and can more be done? One of the greatest efforts to protect this species is led by a Dutch conservationist named Wilco. Realizing that gorillas' chances of survival in their natural habitats were rapidly decreasing, Wilco took action for their future. When he learned that the female gorilla Angela was pregnant, hopes rose even higher. However, when the time came for the birth, no one could have predicted what was about to happen. Wilco noticed that Angela was quieter and more withdrawn than usual. She was even refusing to eat. He knew this could be a sign that the birth was approaching. And finally, the long-awaited moment arrived. Angela started to become restless and lay down on the ground, letting out soft groans. Labor pains had begun. The special caretaker team was closely observing the process, ready to intervene if necessary. Everyone was watching Angela, but no one was prepared for what was about to happen. The Conservation Center was struggling with many deficiencies due to insufficient funding. However, the dedication of the people working there was much stronger than the lack of resources. The staff worked day and night, volunteering their time to ensure the center could continue to function. Since there were no mobile medical units, they set up a tent in the corner of Angela's enclosure to monitor the birth process. Some caretakers even brought blankets from their homes to make Angela feel more comfortable. Despite the limited resources, they were willing to do everything they could to ensure Angela's safety. Angela followed her instincts without needing any guidance. She quietly withdrew to a corner, prepared her body for labor, and tried to relax. However, despite all the careful planning, there was one critical detail that no one had noticed, and this would soon lead to great chaos. The birth had begun, but this time something was different. Even though she had given birth before, this labor was much more difficult for her. She had to summon all of her strength and endurance, and no one yet knew what she was actually struggling with. Finally, the long-awaited moment arrived. After hours of labor and the patient support of the team, Angela's efforts paid off. A tiny miracle took its first breath. Its bright eyes scanned its surroundings, and its mouth was slightly open. It was saying hello to life. Angela gently took her baby in her arms and lovingly embraced it. Using her dark, furry arms like a soft pillow, she pressed the baby against her chest. At that moment, she forgot all her exhaustion. Despite all the hardships, this loving moment made everything worthwhile. The tiny baby's delicate hand clutched tightly onto Angela's finger. The mother never took her eyes off her newborn as she carefully examined it, checking to see if everything was fine. Now was time for the experts to step in. Since she had been a mother before, Angela understood that the veterinary team was only trying to help. She waited patiently and allowed them to examine her baby gently. Fortunately, the little gorilla was breathing normally and responding well to the tests. Wilco smiled at his team, who had successfully managed this challenging process. Thanks to everyone's dedication, another miracle had taken place. Just as everything seemed to be settling down, Angela suddenly twisted in pain. Her body trembled, and for a brief moment, her gaze shifted away from her baby. Something was not right. Watching from a distance, Wilco feared that this might be a sign of internal bleeding. Angela had not undergone an X-ray or ultrasound before giving birth, and now this was becoming painfully clear. What a huge mistake it had been. The veterinarians rushed to administer medication, but Angela was writhing in pain, rolling on the ground and pushing away anyone who tried to approach her. Her instincts compelled her to defend herself, but this struggle was making her even weaker. Time was running out, and the team needed to act immediately. Sedating her was risky, and emergency surgery was equally dangerous. As the team desperately tried to decide what to do, Wilco suddenly paused and looked at the situation from a different perspective. He grabbed his radio and called out to the team, "Be prepared for the possibility of twins." At first, everyone was shocked. No one had even considered such a possibility. Even those who had worked in zoos for 20 years had never seen a gorilla give birth to twins. But Angela was still experiencing contractions. Wilco was right. Another birth was taking place. Twin births in gorillas are rare, and it is extremely difficult for both babies to survive. But at this moment, the real threat was Angela. She was losing blood rapidly, and her body was completely exhausted. She clutched her stomach in pain, writhing through agonizing contractions. This birth was far more difficult than any she had experienced before. After more than half an hour of painful labor, the second baby was born. It looked very similar to the first, but this time it was a female. However, behind her tiny and adorable appearance lay a serious problem. She was not as strong as the first baby. She struggled to breathe, coughed, and appeared dehydrated. Her chances of survival were very slim. Angela was completely drained. She did not even have the strength to hold her babies. The veterinarians quickly took the weaker baby out of the enclosure and rushed her to the operating room. But no one realized what a huge mistake they had just made. A few minutes later, Angela opened her eyes. She was exhausted, but her instincts were still sharp. However, as she looked around, she realized something was missing. Her baby was gone. Fear and anxiety consumed her. She picked up her male newborn and began hitting the enclosure bars with her other hand. But the veterinarians, fearing that she might become aggressive, kept their distance. This silence only fueled Angela's frustration even more. The team was watching her through security cameras. Her anger was a sign that she was still strong and fighting. But the baby gorilla's condition was worsening. Its heartbeat was slowing down and its breathing was becoming irregular. Most of the team had lost hope, but Wilco had an idea. They had to return the baby to Angela. At first, the idea was dismissed, but when no other options remained, they decided to try it. Wilco carefully carried the motionless baby back to Angela's enclosure. The mother lifted her head, and her instincts kicked in immediately. As everyone watched anxiously, Angela gently took the baby from Wilco's arms. Their eyes met in a deep and meaningful moment. Then Angela pressed her baby against her chest and rocked it lovingly. And then, a miracle happened. The tiny gorilla, feeling the warmth of its mother's embrace, did something it had not done since birth. It moved its limbs. Wilco immediately checked its heartbeat with his stethoscope and realized that it was getting stronger. The next morning, the long-awaited medication finally arrived. Wilco rushed to administer it. Angela trusted him. The medication was given, and within hours, the baby's condition improved dramatically. This was not just the survival of a single baby, it was a significant step forward in the conservation of gorillas.